Hey everyone, this is Nicole Wolfe from Canadian Beats, and I am so excited to be joined on the phone with Mike Tilka, who is the bass player, part of the iconic rock band from Canada, Max Webster. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Mike.
Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
That's wonderful. Now, before we get started, I just want to remind our listeners who Max Webster is. This band was formed in 1973, fronted by Kim Mitchell. I mean, who doesn't know who Kim Mitchell is? If you live in Canada, you definitely know. Max Webster fastly became one of Canada's most popular rock bands. Your first three albums achieving gold status, which is amazing, a hard feat to do, especially in the 1970s. Things are a lot different now in the music industry. Now they were twice nominated for a Juno Award in 1980 and 1981 for Group of the Year, and songs like Paradise Skies and A Million Vacations are definitely still being heard on local rock stations in regular rotation. Now, Max Webster reunited as a band in 1995 to release an album called Teratology. And besides Universal Music releasing a Max Webster CD in their Millennium Collection in 2001, you really, since that point, have all been up to solo projects and other things. But fast forward to today, things are very different, which is why we're talking today. So what we wanted to share with our listeners is what's happening on September 29th is you're releasing The Party, which is an 8-disc vinyl or CD box set through Olé Label Group. And this is awesome. We're so excited. Max Webster fans are probably rejoicing around the country. Now, what can you tell us about this release? It's a pretty special package that you're putting together. What types of content are being included in it?
Well, from what I understand, and I'm only involved in a little bit of it, but it's all the records were remastered, both for vinyl and for CD.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a disc that has a variety of demos, outtakes. It's got one track that "Let Go the Line," which is one of the bigger airplay songs Terry Watkinson wrote,
Mm-hmm.
and we performed that live for Q107 30th anniversary parties 7 or 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim and I mixed that. Actually, up in Collingwood,
Oh, wow.
at Tim Thorney's studio. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's in Singhampton, just south of Collingwood, but Tim
Mm-hmm.
lives there. And I think there's a couple live tracks that Kim might have remixed from after I was in the band, and there's a couple of demos. One of which Olé called me and asked me if I remembered it, and I said no.
It's bound to
I mean,
happen.
well, it is like you just I don't even know how old it is. There are some. We sat around and talked about some of the older ones, but that particular one I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And there was talk about Kim doing a song with Bare Naked Ladies, but apparently that's not on it now.
Oh, okay.
They were going to redo Diamonds, Diamonds,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw it on the internet, them at the studio, and apparently it's not going to be on. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but that bootleg record, I think they're calling it, it'll be kind of neat,
Mm-hmm.
especially for real fans.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's great because a band forming today, there's they have the benefit of social media. They fans get a glimpse at time spent in the studio, songs that are being written, little acoustic performances. But back in the 70s and 80s, getting exclusive or unreleased content was pretty much unheard of. So it's such a great way for a band from your era to come back and share that, because fans can go out searching online and find practically nothing, unless there's been someone that's categorized something. It's really difficult to find that stuff. So this is a great idea for sure.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Andy Curran, who works at Olay, and Andy's a bass player and an old friend of mine. He played in Coney Hatch, and we were label mates in Anthem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were on the label quite a bit after we were, but we were still friends, and I worked there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
He put this whole thing together.
That's great. What a great idea. Now,
Yeah.
how will fans be able to get their hands on this collection?
Um, as far as I know, however records are sold in this great day and age,
Mm-hmm.
and excuse me, like, of course I buy the odd cut on iTunes,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody else does, so I assume they will have it on iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they have some sort of order, because I think most labels now also sell records direct.
Right, of course.
Mail order, or however they work it. It's funny because I'm in the middle of a project right now, and I'm having to relearn how the music industry works.
Absolutely.
Because I worked at SRO Anthem after I was in the band,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so entirely different now.
Mm-hmm.
So they can certainly get their hands on it. It's just, it's not like go down to your local record store, because there aren't any local record stores.
Absolutely. That was something I definitely wanted to talk about with you today. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, it would definitely be to the advantage of the fan to get their own hands-on copy of it, because there's so much content in there. Like, for example, you have a booklet with rare photos and memorabilia. You wouldn't be able to get that in the downloaded content. So,
no, you wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well,
I'm assuming it'll be on Amazon too, because isn't everything in the world for sale on Amazon?
Definitely.
Well,
For
it's
sure.
gotta be there.
Yeah, for sure.
It can't not be there.
No, for sure. And once the release happens, we will definitely put the word out for Max Webster as well, where fans can get their hands on that. So
Wonderful.
Stay tuned for that. Now, why did 2017 seem like the year to put this together and release it?
Every interview, that's been the key question. And outside of the fact that Andy, and I believe, the head honcho over at Olay, they're Max fans, they got the catalog when Anthem, as a label, closed down, sold everything to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something new, different, and exciting for them to do. And maybe it was something that should have been done years ago, and it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, gee, we better do it sooner than later. In one interview, I said it's a good thing, because pretty soon we'd be coming to interviews, with our walkers. So I'm glad we're all hale and hearty that we can participate.
Absolutely. Well, why not 2017 then, right? It sounds like the
exactly.
right time. Mm-hmm. Now, do you have any plans of supporting its release with any live shows?
I really doubt. I mean, the last time we played as a band was at the docks. There was about 4,000 people there for the Q107 party.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a blast. And there's talk of next year, if this project goes well, releasing remixes of that show,
mm-hmm.
and possibly video to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a hopefully, or a maybe, whatever, depending on how this one does. But in terms of live shows, I mean, Kim still has his own career, and
mm-hmm.
that's his forte.
Yeah. And
he plays a lot of Max material at his shows, because
mm-hmm.
I go to see him. We're still friends, and
mm-hmm.
he's got a great band, and so people get their fix that way. But there's been no talk of any sort of reunion or reunion date or one-off that I've heard about. I haven't heard about any of it, and I think I would have,
mm-hmm.
probably.
Absolutely.
It'd be kind of neat, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. One of my questions was going to be, but I think you've pretty much answered it now, but I'm going to ask, because I know there are diehard fans out there wondering. You toured with Rush in the 1980s, and, Geddy Lee has gone on record of being really respectful of your music. If you were to get back on the road and tour again, fans, I'm sure, are dying to know if you guys would reunite with Rush.
Well, again, see, Rush isn't performing either.
That's right.
They're retired.
That's right.
And I saw something on the internet, and again, you see things on the internet, I have no idea if it's true, but I saw something that he and Alex and Geddy were thinking of getting another drummer and just doing another project so they could play.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if that's true. Like I said, it was on the internet. There's
a
lot
of
I
think I know what you're referring to. I remember seeing about some girl actually being advertised as a potential
right
for that.
But that said, Max hasn't played with Rush in years,
right.
and I wouldn't see that happening.
Right.
But it would be really cool if it did.
That would be cool. I think, it's kind of a Canadian dream. We will keep it up there as a Canadian dream for sure.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And getting back to, what we were talking about earlier in terms of it being a very different scene right now musically. Back when Max Webster was releasing records, you went to the record store, you bought albums that way, you got to go to the shows, but there was or you could write to the fan club and hopefully, connect with a member of the band. And it's very different nowadays. Fans have an expectation of instant gratification, of finding whatever they want online, and with connecting with a band online. What's your game plan for social media? Do you plan on beefing that up around the release?
Well, again, Max Webster being we're a pre-video band.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, outside of this live show, and there's a couple really weird, odd, low resolution videos from years ago, but nothing of any significance or any interest.
Mm-hmm.
There was a CBC show that I've already seen on YouTube, and we have the mastered tapes from that, meaning the audio tapes, but the videotapes CBC owns them, and so they're not doing anything with them that anyone has told me.
Mm-hmm.
Although an interviewer the other day said she was going to check on it for me, just out of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, it's hard to be on social media without a video.
That's true.
Or without a game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Max Webster does not have a band website.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kim has a good website, and there's a fan maxwebster.ca website. I looked into maxwebster.com, and there's a gentleman that owns it, and we had a nice talk, and he registered the name for his son, whose name is Max. His last name is Webster.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with the band whatsoever, and he was not the least bit interested in sharing, selling, negotiating for that site. And I just did it more out of curiosity. It's not as if I had a major plan either.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so there's no real social media focus in that sense, at least that I know of.
Right.
And if the band's not going to play, so we're obviously doing interviews. I've done a whole bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I really love the fact that we're talking. These typed interviews
mm-hmm.
I find to be quite odd.
Mm-hmm.
They're not awful, and it's kind of interesting, and it makes you write and think about your answer in a different way. But I don't consider myself a writer.
Right.
They're
so very one-sided. You don't get
Yeah.
a chance for that back and forth dialogue, right?
No, nothing
Mm-hmm.
at all. You can't even go off in a little direction. But anyway, I'm in the middle of one actually tonight. I just did one a week ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we might do a little group interview, sort of for some sort of release, although that isn't confirmed yet. But outside of that, we're so pre-social media, pre-video
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know outside of this type of interview and talk and the fan stuff, because there are a lot of these crazy fan sites too.
Mm-hmm.
Canadian this, Canadian that, rock this, rock that, old rock, new rock.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you like to have it rock reissued? It absolutely amazes me.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way to know how many people really go to those or look at them.
Mm-hmm.
But they must have some influence. Anyway, I know those are out there, and I think they'll all be all over it, because that's what these people do.
Well,
They
definitely.
get all over something and they love it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very sweet, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, what have you been up personally to, since the disbanding of Max Webster?
Well, I mean, a long time ago, after I got fired, I produced the next album, and I worked at Anthem Records for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a production company of my own for years, but sound and lighting production, not music production.
Mm-hmm.
And I played. Well, I never stopped playing. I played part time. In fact, Terry and I had a band for years called Antlers.
Right.
I think in your opening to this, I think you mentioned teratology or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with Max Webster. That was a Terry project.
Oh, okay.
So whoever did your background on that one, there was some sort of mix-up. Terry did that record, and Terry did some stuff with Gary for a while. And then Terry and I had a band called Antlers for years, sort of on again, off again. Nothing was ever released, but we played original music, and we did clubs and the odd show and opened for people and practiced a lot, and it was extremely gratifying. It was just fun. A bunch of guys having fun. And Terry's a fantastic songwriter. And we had a guitar player named Sam Basubitz and about 10 drummers. So that was kind of cool. And then Terry did a solo record last year, and I'm doing an album right now. I have a project with a excellent singer, songwriter, vocalist, Shane Kluche up in Collingwood.
Okay.
And Shane and I have a band called Odd Clue.
Okay.
And our record's coming out in about 3 weeks.
Amazing.
So we're excited about that. We perform a lot as a duo because that's kind of how much work is out there. Meaning, It's hard to have a band. We recorded it as a band, like 4-piece, and Jorn Anderson played drums on half the tracks, and Tom Bonham played in the other track half. Tim Thorney produced 6 of the cuts. I produced 5 of the cuts. Jim Bruton, the original keyboard player, and Max Webster played on half the tracks, and Kim's keyboard player played on the other half of the tracks, and Tim played some keyboard on the tracks as well. We had a few guest artists singing, and in fact, the lead singer from Cowboy Junkies sang on one of the tracks as well.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, being that I'm local to you, I will definitely be going to check that out.
Get us a gig in Barrie. We'll come over and play.
Amazing. Well, we're going to have to look into that.
We're putting a band together right now, meaning Shane and I play regularly as a duo, but we have 2 or 3 keyboard players that we can play with. Drummers are always the hardest to find.
Right.
Because the good drummers all work a lot.
Yeah.
And, their commitment base is, like we've done some shows with Tom, but Tom's got Soul Stack, his band, with the 2 brothers in Kitchener, and then he's in about 8 other bands. And he's an in-demand guy. And Jorn is kind of retired, although he's my neighbor here in Toronto, but he may be moving up to Collingwood, but he's not playing right now. So, it's not like he's sitting around waiting for the phone to ring or anything. So we're not sure. We're looking for drummers right now. So.
Well, you've heard the word, fans. If you want to drum with Mike Tilka, give him a call.
Go for it. Yeah, doesn't Whitey Glenn lives in Barrie, doesn't he?
Who's that? Sorry?
Whitey Glenn, Penty Glenn. See, I can tell you're young now.
I might be a few years younger than you.
He played with Prakash John. He played in the Mandela, I believe. He played in a ton of bands.
Okay.
He's an amazing drummer.
Okay. I'm going to take your word for that, and I'm sure I'm going to be embarrassed once I go Google him afterwards and realize.
Yeah, his real name is Penty, I believe. But everybody called Whitey Glenn. He's a blonde-haired guy.
Okay.
I'm sure his white hair is now not really white, not blonde. But anyway, great drummer. But I think he lives in Barrie.
Okay.
Barrie's got a few good musicians up there. I think the old keyboard player from Red Rider lives in Barrie as well.
I think you might be right on that. That I do. Yeah. I have heard before. So. Well, Mike, it's been absolutely wonderful speaking with you today, and we at Canadian Beats are so happy to get the word out about the party, about this lovely 8-disc collection that's getting out there. So fans, stay tuned. On September 29th, we'll definitely get the information out there for you.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's been a pleasure, and this has been Nicole Wolfe from Canadian Beats, and we'll catch you next time.